veteran like
that was Ravens head coach John Harbaugh speaking this afternoon ahead of Sunday's showdown in Western New York against the Buffalo Bills, 6:30 Eastern on CBS. And Tracy Wolfson is going to be on the sideline for that one. She joins us right now on CBS Sports HQ. Tracy, we heard John Harbaugh in that press conference talking about how they're practicing indoors but without the heat. He mentioned the conditions. It's going to be in the teens, as you well know. You're going to be bundled up for that one on the sideline. You're there, though. You're on the sideline for these huge games. How much does the environment and the conditions play a role when you're playing at Buffalo in January?
Well, first off, Chris, thanks for reminding me that I'm going to be absolutely freezing this weekend. I try not to think about it until game day. But, yeah, it plays a big role, of course. Fortunately, last Sunday, it was beautiful. It was 35 degrees and sunny and barely any wind and very abnormal for Buffalo. But anytime you go on the road and you play in Orchard Park, you know what you're going to get, especially this time of the year. And even when you go to Kansas City, I mean, it's going to be cold. It's going to be frigid temperatures. The winds are going to be swirling in that stadium specifically. Unless you really know it, you have no idea where the winds are going. You can't just look up at the flag and determine that. So there's a lot of elements. It could snow at any point. Footing could be a problem. It's going to be cold. The surface is going to be cold. But all of these players really have experienced it, especially the veteran players that are in this game specifically. Had a chance to speak with Derrick Henry, and we talked a little bit about how cold it is to tackle. That's how hard it is to tackle someone and take them to the ground, the amount of effort that you need. In terms of a running back, he said it's fine. Yeah, it maybe hurts a little bit more when you fall down on the ground, but for those elements, that's exactly what you want. You want to run the football. The Bills, they know it. They've experienced it. They're going to have the benefit of Bills Mafia there, certainly. But I think Baltimore comes in prepared, not concerned about the temperature whatsoever.
Well, and it wasn't cold for their first meeting because it was week 4. It was in Baltimore. The Ravens won by 25, and they couldn't tackle Derrick Henry then. He had 199 yards on the ground, had a couple of touchdowns. It's not a divisional battle here, but you've done so many games where divisional opponents are meeting for the second time in the season. How big of a factor do you think this is going to be for these teams and these coaches that they have seen each other this season and it was so lopsided?
I think it helps, but I also think that was so early on in the year. Anytime two teams meet in the beginning of the season, they're a really much different team later on in the season, and both of these teams certainly playing their best football right now. But if you go back to that game, the Buffalo Bills were missing a ton of players, whether it's Terrell Bernard or Taron Johnson or Matt Milano. They didn't have Amari Cooper, and Von Miller was out, and actually Shakir and I think Tyler Rapp got hurt in the beginning of the game. So for the most part, it's kind of a different team. But when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they're a different team, too. Their defense is completely different than it was in the beginning of the season. And they're playing really their best ball on their best football right now on that side of the ball. So I think you really, to me, whenever I look at a team playing another team, I usually throw those first games out the window, especially if those teams look different coming down the stretch of the season. And I think what that's going to be what both of these teams look at. Certainly they'll take away a few things. And, the Bills know what they need to do now that they've seen Derrick Henry in person alongside Lamar Jackson and the threat that the two of them are. But I do think you can throw a little bit of that out the window.
Josh Allen was asked today about the matchup with Lamar Jackson, and he basically said, well, it's not a matchup because I'm not facing him. Like, he's on the other team. We're not on the field at the same time. But that's the big talking point going into this game. And one of the arguments that a lot of our analysts have had all week, Tracy, is which player is this game more important for? Do you think it's more important for Josh Allen in this stage of his career or Lamar Jackson, who already has 2 MVP awards?
Wow, that's a tough question, honestly, and I hate to just say both. But they both have so much riding on this. The franchises have so much riding on this. Both want to get to a Super Bowl so bad. We spoke with Lamar Jackson early in the season, and one of the things he talked about was that loss in the AFC Championship, how it made him hungry. Just getting back is what he wants. He'll never be satisfied until he gets there, and I think Josh Allen feels the same way. They've gotten to this point, they've lost. They've gotten to a championship, they've lost. He wants to be able to take his team to a Super Bowl. And they can win MVPs, but until you win a championship with your team, you guide them to a championship for your franchise, for your city, you don't feel like you've actually succeeded. And so I think both of these quarterbacks would give up an MVP in a heartbeat to bring a Super Bowl to their city.
You see head-to-head, 2-2. The tiebreaker is this weekend, and the winner is most likely going to Arrowhead to face Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but they have the Texans, 7.5-point favorites in that game. You're going to know, and we're all going to know, where these teams are headed going into that one, because that's a Saturday game. Can you even remember the last time you did an AFC Championship game that didn't involve Patrick Mahomes?
No. I did a lot of them involving Tom Brady, I can tell you that. But, you know, look, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they are the two straight defending champs. And so you cannot count them out ever. And it's funny, all the talk about them this year, even all the talk last year, and the talk when they lost Tyreek. I mean, it's the same narrative coming into the season, throughout the season, that who is this Chiefs team? Can they really win it again? But here they are, the favorites to get back to the Super Bowl. And so can someone knock them off? Can it be the Houston Texans? I think it's going to be a difficult task. And everyone wants to maybe talk about the 24 days off that they had, but that actually benefited this Chiefs team. They're veteran players. They don't necessarily need that live action. They certainly simulated it as much as they could during practice. But for the most part, they needed to get healthy and rest. And that's what they were able to do. They're coming in here as full strength as possible. I think they're a dangerous team. You can never count those Chiefs out. And certainly I think what we're going to wind up seeing is the Chiefs back in an AFC Championship, hosting it at Arrowhead, and whether it's going to be the Bills or the Ravens, that remains to be seen.
Tracy Wolfson, good to see you enjoying some time back at home before you go back to Western New York on Friday. Best of luck. Looking forward to all the coverage this weekend.
Thank you, Chris.
Tracy Wolfson going to be on the sideline for the call. Ravens and Bills, 6:30 Eastern time on CBS with Nance and Romo in the booth. And look at Harrison Ford. The Paramount original 1923 has a season 2 coming up. I can't wait for it. We're going to get a sneak peek of season 2 at halftime of that game on CBS. Looking forward to it Sunday night.